We are going to talk more about the World Cup and the stories coming out of there, but at 2 o'clock we're going to bring you full commentary of the Austrian Grand Prix. George Russell is on pole. He's 50 points behind his Mercedes teammate Kimi Antonelli in the Drivers' Championship. It's a big opportunity then to close the gap on him. He starts today in P4. Harry Benjamin and the team are going to be guiding us through this one. Hi, Harry.
Hi, Kelly. Thank you very much. Yeah, welcome to the Red Bull Ring. Formula One is in Austria for the 8th round of the World Championship. It's high temperatures and a track that is nestled in the idyllic surroundings of the Styrian Mountains. We're about 2 hours southwest of Vienna. Cars out on track at the moment, just doing their laps to the grid. Max Verstappen making his way round turn 9, the penultimate corner, where he had his big crash in qualifying yesterday. Alongside me is multiple Formula E race winner Sam Bird and the BBC's F1 correspondent Andrew Benson. This time, Sam, Max makes it back into the pit lane, but it was a chaotic end to qualifying yesterday, which saw confusion over yellow flags, but ultimately George Russell securing pole, and deservedly so?
Deservedly so indeed, Harry. He knows the rule book very, very well, executed a brilliant lap. Lost time in that mini sector where the FIA would have been looking for him to slow down, and it caught us by surprise, didn't it? We were expecting to see a Charles Leclerc and Ferrari all front row, and it kind of went under the radar. We were so busy looking at the crash of Max Verstappen, we didn't really notice George Russell putting in a scintillating lap.
So why was George Russell allowed to keep that lap in the end then?
So the rule is that it was a single yellow flag, which again I disagree with. I think it should have been a double yellow immediately, but look, it was a single yellow. The rule is you just need to slow down sufficiently enough to showcase to the FIA that you have slowed down. George Russell did that, didn't go faster within that section of the track. So his lap up until that point was so good that he could slow down by a couple of tenths of a second and still grab pole position.
So I suppose, is there a bigger question here about why it wasn't elevated to a double yellow sooner after the incident?
Yeah, I think so. I think that ultimately that was probably an FIA mistake or a marshal mistake, a local marshal the marshals are brilliant. Any marshal on track, they do this for the love of the sport, but I think it was a simple error, pressing a single yellow on a button that then goes to the panels around the track rather than the double yellow.
I mean, Andrew, what have you made of all this? It certainly got us all on the edge of our seats yesterday, and you can't take away from what Russell was able to do in terms of knowing the rule book and applying it to the letter.
Yeah, he got things absolutely right. No fault on George Russell at all. Kimi Antonelli, who was just ahead of him on the track, his teammate, he backed off, thinking it was a double yellow when it wasn't. And Russell read the signals absolutely correctly, backed off just enough to keep his lap, which was obviously really, really good up to that point to allow him to back off through turn 9 and still get pole position. So the big question is, why wasn't it a double yellow? Turn 9, where Verstappen crashed, is a 140 mile an hour corner. Verstappen was in the wall, in the car. There's no reason why that shouldn't be a double yellow flag. It sits straight away. So whether the marshal, I don't think we don't. What we don't know is, why did the marshal press for the single yellow, not the double? Was that a mistake? Because race control overrode that 20 seconds later, but it took 20 seconds to do it, which is too long, because by then both the Mercedes had gone through that zone. Or was it a choice to only do a single yellow? Either way, it was, I would say, and I think Max Verstappen argued as well, he was quite critical of the decision to only have a single yellow there. It should have been a double yellow straight away. But as for Russell, he played it absolutely perfectly, and has set up a really interesting race, because you've got the Ferraris in a Mercedes sandwich at the front of the grid. Both teams can play strategy. Verstappen, who might well have been third on the grid, back in 5th, and the McLaren's just behind him. And McLaren, Lando Norris, he looked quickest very marginally on the race runs on Friday afternoon, so I wouldn't rule him out either.
Yeah, exactly. Well, after that chaotic qualifying, it was indeed George Russell who secured his 4th pole position of the season, 11th of his career, but looking for his 2nd Grand Prix victory this season to try and continue to take the mantle back to his teammate Kimi Antonelli. Let's hear it from George Russell now, speaking with Ariana Bravo.
George, it was a fantastic pole lap from you. How much confidence are you bringing into the race today after pulling it out the bag like that?
Yeah, feeling really good going into the race today. It's obviously very hot, hence the jacket. But I think it's going to be a big fight from a number of cars around us. The Ferraris were super fast last race. McLaren's are looking strong. Max was also looking strong as well. So, yeah, we're going to have to keep pushing.
Enjoy it. Go well today, George.
George Russell there speaking at the Drivers' Parade. Sam, how important is a victory going to be today for George Russell?
I think hugely important. He needs to stop hemorrhaging points to his teammate. He is 50 points behind at this stage. And if he's going to mount a serious championship charge, he needs to start beating Kimi Antonelli for the next 2 or 3 Grand Prix.
He certainly does. Mentally, it will be certainly a huge boost for him to be starting on pole position. Teammate Kimi Antonelli, the championship leader, is the 19-year-old Italian, starting down in 4th position after bailing out on his final run in qualifying due to what he thought were double yellow flags. But we won't go back to Flaggate yet. I'm sure that will be a conversation that continues to rumble on. As you said, Sam, though, it was looking at one point like a Charles Leclerc pole position and a Ferrari front row lockout. Not to be, but I think before qualifying yesterday, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, if you'd said you're starting 2nd and 3rd, they would have bitten your hand off for that.
Absolutely. And do you know what's really great, Harry, is the fact that Ferrari have brought a lot of upgrades to this Grand Prix, and they seem to be working. And that's something that you can't really say about Ferrari over the last decade, I'd pretty much say. At this stage in the season, they tend to go backwards in comparison to the other teams that they're racing against. McLaren normally get it right, and Mercedes, you see them ticking along nicely with regards to upgrades. Ferrari, on the other hand, in recent history, haven't got their upgrades right, but this time round they just seem to be edging closer to Mercedes, which is great to see. Great to see as a Lewis Hamilton fan, great to see as a Ferrari fan.
It's an interesting dynamic, I think, down at Ferrari at the moment. Lewis Hamilton, off the back of that monumental first victory for Ferrari in Barcelona, he sits 2nd in the championship, just behind Kimi Antonelli on 41 points behind him, so it's still a fair size to close down. But Charles Leclerc on the other side of the garage is off the back of 2 retirements, so there's different stakes at play here. How do you think that will fare over the course of a Grand Prix distance today?
I think Charles Leclerc will be going out there trying to win the Grand Prix, trying to get as many points as possible. Same with Lewis. Charles has had a difficult last few Grand Prix. Lewis's confidence is obviously sky high at the moment. I think that the changes engineer-wise and within the team at Ferrari have really helped him, and he's full of confidence. Charles Leclerc hasn't forgotten how to drive. He's just had some difficulties, especially under braking with his Ferrari car.
It's a really interesting dynamic at Ferrari, actually, isn't it? What we expected to have last year, but Hamilton struggled so badly in his first season with Ferrari. This year it's much more like the Hamilton of old. He's made some changes within the team. He's asked for some technical things that have been quite difficult for the team to deliver, but they have done so. Leclerc's been less comfortable in the car this year, but he's still, although Hamilton's ahead on the qualifying head-to-head, Leclerc is actually quicker on average, so it just goes to show how close it is between them. Leclerc will be wanting to sort of reinstate himself as a sort of lead Ferrari driver, because that's what he's become used to over the last few years, even though it's Lewis Hamilton who's now his teammate. And it just makes it all the more interesting, this fight at the front, because you've got a similar dynamic at Ferrari as you have at Mercedes.
We certainly do. 71 laps coming your way. One word, one name from both of you. Victory today. Who's it going?
I'm going to go with Antonelli.
Kimi Antonelli, Andrew?
Antonelli.
Oh, it's 2 Antonellis. No one backing Hamilton for a second victory. Well, we'll see. Not long to find out then until we go racing around the Red Bull Ring. Round 8 coming your way right here on 5 Live. Lights out from 2 o'clock.
Thank you, Harry. We will be back with you and the team, actually probably just before 2, for full commentary of the Austrian Grand Prix. Give you a little bit of time to warm up to it. Now, the Premiership Women's Rugby Final. over the coming days and over the next coming weeks. But it's time to get over to Austria for commentary of the Grand Prix. Harry Benjamin and the team are going to be looking ahead to that one, which is just about to get underway.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. Just a few minutes away from lights out for the Austrian Grand Prix. Welcome to the Red Bull Ring for round 8 of the World Championship, a track that is nestled in the idyllic surroundings of the Styrian Mountains, southwest of the capital, Vienna. And after a confusing end to qualifying yesterday, it is George Russell with a magical lap out of nowhere who starts on pole position for today's race, just ahead of the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. And guiding you through every lap alongside me is the BBC's F1 correspondent Andrew Benson and multiple Formula E race winner Sam Bird. Sam, we put what happened yesterday behind us with the yellow flag confusion. A mighty lap from Russell in the end to take pole. Just what he needs.
Just what he needs indeed, Harry. Good afternoon, everybody. Looking forward to this one. 71 laps around this Spielberg track. I am looking forward to this. This could be really, really fun. You've got a grid that is nicely poised. You've got the Mercedes of George Russell on pole, 2 Ferraris, and then the championship leader, Kimi Antonelli, lining up in 4th.
Hot temperatures as well. Heat has to declare. Cooling vests can be used by the drivers. Air temperature just teetering over 34.5 degrees. Track temperature just under 50 degrees. Will that have a big effect on the strategy with the tyres today?
I think we're going to be seeing a 2-stop race this afternoon. Everybody inside the top 10 will be starting on the medium compound tyre. The only 2 that have opted differently are Gabi Bortoleto in 11th. He'll be starting on the soft, as will Carlos Sainz down in 17th.
Yeah, those further down the order with not much to lose on that front, trying something different. Lewis Hamilton starts 3rd off the back of that amazing win in Barcelona. Can he challenge again today?
There's no reason why he can't, but there's 71 laps to decide who's going to be the victor this afternoon. He's certainly in a great run of form, but let's just see how the Ferraris fare up against the might of Mercedes.
Well, the sun is shining. The grid is just being cleared now. It's a steep run up to turn 1. The formation lap is on the way, and George Russell will have the best view in the house. We'll run you through the grid in full. All 22 drivers set to race 71 laps. It's time for the Austrian Grand Prix. As George Russell and Charles Leclerc peel away at the front, let's take you from the back to pole. And it's the 2 Aston Martins that line up on row 11. Lance Stroll in 22nd behind teammate Fernando Alonso. Row 10 ahead sees Valtteri Bottas alongside Sergio Perez, 19th and 20th. Then it's the Williams of Carlos Sainz in 17th behind Franco Colapinto's Alpine in 16th place. Inside the top 15 is Esteban Ocon. Nico Hülkenberg lines up 14th behind the British driver for Haas, Oliver Behrman. Gabriel Bortoleto in the Audi is 12th, and Pierre Gasly's Alpine just missing out on the top 10. Arvid Lindblad, the British rookie, starts 10th, 4 Racing Bulls behind his teammate Liam Lawson. Isaac Hadjar for Red Bull is 8th. Then come the 2 McLarens, Piastri behind the reigning world champion Lando Norris. Max Verstappen, after his crash in qualifying yesterday, fixed the car, starts 5th behind Kimi Antonelli, the championship leader in a Mercedes, from 4th. Into the top 3, it's Lewis Hamilton 3rd, and your front row is Charles Leclerc's Ferrari, and on pole position, it's George Russell. Well, a very good afternoon indeed if you are just joining us. This is 5 Live F1, the Austrian Grand Prix, the 8th round of the way, about to get underway. We are moments away from that lights out. Sports Extra is where you'll get the latest from day 4 of the 3rd test between England and New Zealand, but we'll be bringing you updates on that here too. And it's into the knockout stages of the World Cup. Action tonight from Los Angeles, South Africa against Canada. Right now, though, our focus here on 5 Live is Formula 1 for the next couple of hours. 320,000 people packing out the grandstands here, Sam, and there is a sea of orange. It's Red Bull's home race, but Red Bull a little bit on the back foot so far.
A little bit on the back foot, but Max Verstappen did Max Verstappen things yesterday. I know he had an off at the end of qualifying, but wringing the neck of that Red Bull, which is to be expected from him. Can he take the fight to Ferrari and Mercedes, or are we going to see the Mercedes and the Ferrari just duke it out between themselves?
Quite high up here in Styria, 660 metres above sea level. Altitude does have its effect, and a 65-metre elevation change experienced across a lap 2. It's a long run up, it's a steep run up to turn 1. There are overtaking opportunities, Sam, but not that many.
Well, there's turn 3, turn 4, especially those are the main two. Normally people look to get a run out of turn 1 up to 3. If you don't get the move done in 3, have a look into turn 4.
The final burnouts then from the back of the grid. The two Cadillacs lining up. Big upgrade for them brought this weekend. Really tough Friday, hoping to achieve something here on the Sunday as Lance Stroll's Aston Martin pulls in to the final grid spot. All 22 cars on the grid. It's a run up the hill to turn 1, then a right-hander before a long straight all the way uphill towards turn 3. It's Charles Leclerc and the Ferrari in second. On pole position, it's George Russell. It's eyes to the lights and foot to the floor as we go racing in Austria. Good start from George Russell. Immediately cuts across to defend from Leclerc's Ferrari. Into the right-hander of turn 1. Leclerc slots in behind George Russell, who holds the lead, and it's a good exit. Kimi Antonelli runs out wide in fourth, rejoins behind Hamilton with Verstappen and Norris as they were, but Norris is going to try and go down the inside as we approach the run-up to turn 3, and it's side by side for the lead. George Russell defending from Leclerc. Russell forces Leclerc out wide. Antonelli's off again. Russell holds the position as we head downhill towards turn 4, and now it looks like Lewis Hamilton is right up and on the inside of his teammate Leclerc, battling for second place. The two Ferraris wheel to wheel round the right-hander. Leclerc looks like he might just hold it. Hamilton's going to have the inside line now. Hamilton through on Leclerc, but the Monegasque isn't giving this one up yet.
Yeah, robust stuff from Lewis Hamilton there. Great move into turn 4 from him, and now he sets his sights on George Russell.
Yeah, really strong start from Lewis Hamilton. Just bided his time there and already up to second. Antonelli, despite running wide several times, is still holding on to fourth place. Further back in the midfield, one of the Racing Bulls almost being forced onto the grass in the rundown to turn 4. Just about came out of that unscathed. Might have been Arvid Lindblad, who's still holding on to the top 10. Kimi Antonelli is next to pick off Charles Leclerc into turn 1. Tries to get it done on the inside, runs out wide. That's the third time in only a lap and a corner for Kimi Antonelli that he's found the runoff area, and he's given that position back.
Scrappy stuff from Kimi Antonelli on the opening lap and a third. He's made many mistakes. We see Charles Leclerc going deep in turn 3. That gives an opportunity for Kimi Antonelli down the inside, down the straight towards turn 4, and also Max Verstappen.
Wheel to wheel with the Ferrari. Charles Leclerc is struggling here, runs deep into turn 4 from second on the grid. Charles Leclerc is about to lose fourth place to Max Verstappen now, because Kimi Antonelli's already, he's actually just behind us. So Kimi Antonelli's fighting off the two McLarens who are right there. Max Verstappen, the big benefactor there. It was Verstappen who managed to get up to third. Leclerc's down to fourth. He's held it for now. Antonelli behind, then Piastri and Norris.
Yeah, I wonder what happened there with Charles Leclerc. Just made a mistake, I believe, under braking in turn 3. That left the door wide open for somebody to attack him. We thought it might be one of the McLarens, but actually it was Max Verstappen to take advantage. At the back of the grid, it looks like Bottas is having an issue, saying that his brakes are on fire. Fastest lap of the race on lap 3 from Lewis Hamilton.
Wow, it's been a mega start from Lewis Hamilton, who is hunting down his old teammate George Russell, who leads last lap around, only a couple of hundredths of a second, splitting Russell and Hamilton in terms of fastest lap time. Hamilton quicker, lap 3 of 71. Here in Austria, it's Russell who leads Hamilton. Verstappen now third. Leclerc stabilising in fourth, with Antonelli fifth. Piastri, Norris, the two McLarens 6th and 7th. Lawson's 8th ahead of Hadjar. Lindblad, the top 10. Ocon up to 11th, but ahead of Bortoletto. Then comes Gasly, Hulkenberg, Behrman the top 15. The two Williams, Sainz ahead of Albon. Perez is 18th. Colapinto's had a bad start, down to 19th, with Alonso and Stroll 20th and 21st, as Bottas comes into the pits with his brakes on fire. The Cadillac team there waiting with the fire extinguisher.
So the biggest loser of the first few laps is Charles Leclerc, down 2 positions from where he started on the front row. Biggest winner is Max Verstappen, up 2 from 5th up to 3rd.
On fire, bro, on fire, my car.
That's Liam Lawson, the Kiwi who races for Racing Bulls. He's in 8th at the moment, ahead of Isaac Hadjar. and saying his car is on fire, but he's continuing round. Through turn 1 we go, looking in his mirrors to see where the Frenchman in the Red Bull behind is. The Red Bull should be the quicker car, but Hadjar's been struggling. Dives down the inside though, does Hadjar, uphill into turn 3. Lawson's going to get the cutback though. Earlier on the throttle, Lawson back through. Straight line mode is activated. That's when the front wing and the rear wing both open to decrease the drag. And down the inside for Hadjar into turn 4. Lovely stuff from the two Red Bull drivers, one in the big team, the other in the sister.
Yeah, I think Hadjar's got this move done and dusted now as they sweep through turn 6. Lovely move there from the youngster past Liam Lawson, who, as he said his car's on fire, but looking at the video right now, can't see where. It's not like he's got great big flames coming out of it, is he? So he's able to carry on.
No smoke coming from that Racing Bulls. He's now down to 9th, ahead of his teammate Arvid Lindblad, holding on to the final points-paying position in 10th. Lap 5 of 71 of the Austrian Grand Prix. Russell leads Hamilton by a second. Verstappen a couple of seconds further back. Leclerc and Antonelli the top 5, as Lawson continues to say on the radio that he does feel like his car's on fire.
Yeah, it's spread out a little bit after a frenetic opening couple of laps. Russell leads Hamilton by just under 1 second. A further 2.7 seconds back is Max Verstappen. This race is nicely poised, Harry.
What's going on today? That's Sergio Perez in the Cadillac. He's down in 21st. He's just come into the pits and saying he's got a lot of smoke in the cockpit now. Valtteri Bottas looks like he's retired from this race, having reported his brakes are on fire. Are we about to lose another Cadillac as well on a weekend where they really hoped a big upgrade package would improve their prospects? The newest team in Formula One, this their debut season, the US car giant entering the sport right now, going up in flames in Austria.
So yeah, it's just the excitement has subsided a little bit at the front. I think everybody now is just working on looking after these medium compound tyres, getting them towards the end of a stint. It'll be crucial to try and undercut or overcut. Let's see which one is more powerful.
Turn 5 incident between Gabriel Bortoletto's Audi and Pierre Gasly has been noted, forcing another driver off the track. A couple of incidents for Kimi Antonelli now being reviewed. No further investigation, leaving the track and gaining an advantage. We picked up on that. Antonelli really running wide on several occasions in the first 2 laps, and ultimately losing out in the end to Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. But looks like Kimi Antonelli is now back on the hunt for 4th place, which is currently occupied by the Ferrari of Leclerc.
Yeah, he's just able to keep a tighter line through turn 3 and turn 4. Looks a little bit more comfortable with his car as opposed to Charles Leclerc. Just looks like he's fighting it a little bit more in that Ferrari.
George Russell crosses the line, fastest lap so far, couple of tenths quicker than Lewis Hamilton on that lap around, and actually just extending the gap now to over 1.5 seconds. So George Russell out in front with the benefit of clean air. No cars in front of him for now until we get traffic galore, which will happen quickly around this circuit, just over 4.3 kilometres in length. Right, lap 7 here in Austria. Let's head over and get an update in the cricket. Ellie Oldroyd.
New Zealand's 200 is up here, 204 for 4. Tom Blundell nearly nicking off Daryl Mitchell. Another big shout for LBW, but given not out. The lead is 284 runs now for New Zealand. They're 204 for 4.
Ball-by-ball commentary available over on Sports Extra. Right, closing the gap now even more is Kimi Antonelli, who is hunting down Charles Leclerc down the straight towards turn 4, and is going to make it look easy for Leclerc, trying to defend that inside line. Is that going to give Antonelli the undercut on the exit? No, it starts to curve to the right and actually flicks out to the left-hand side through 6. Antonelli trying to keep a nose in to the Ferrari in front, but then it's single file through there. But Antonelli looks like the more confident car right now.
Yeah, he's applying the pressure to Charles Leclerc. Someone else that will be applying pressure soon as Kimi Antonelli sends it down the inside into turn 9, gets the position, but will it switch back with overtake mode going into turn 1? Not sure what Charles Leclerc got. He hasn't got anything down into turn 1. The other person applying pressure, Harry, is Max Verstappen on Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, last lap around 4 tenths quicker was Max Verstappen than Lewis Hamilton. Charles Leclerc's not had a good start to this race. Started on the front row in second and does look, compared to his teammate, at least right now, that he's struggling out there. Last lap around 1:13.9 for Charles Leclerc, who is now down to 5th place. Lewis Hamilton is in second. Last lap for him was a 1:12.4. Yes, Max Verstappen is closing in on him and is now on the rear wing of Lewis Hamilton in second place. And now Kimi Antonelli's been released. I expect to see the Italian, who leads the Drivers' Championship coming into this round, straight into this fight.
Yeah, you would expect a Hamilton radio. The car is moving to oversteer quite quickly, so I think Ferrari are overheating the surface of their tyres at the moment and really suffering in this phase of the race. Expect to see Kimi Antonelli just cruising up to the back of Max Verstappen quite soon and joining this fight.
There's been a wicket in the cricket. Ellie?
Yeah, just as you left us, Tom Blundell swinging away against Jofra Archer, caught on the boundary by Emilio Gay, and the crowd here at Trent Bridge really getting into this. New Zealand 204 for 5, 288 is the lead.
Day 4 of the third test, ball by ball coverage over on Sports Extra. We'll keep bringing you updates though right here on 5 Live. Our focus is the Austrian Grand Prix, and on track the battle for second place now. Lewis Hamilton currently occupies that second place, uphill through the right-hander of turn 3, being chased down by his old title rival Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. Big crash in qualifying yesterday for Verstappen, and Red Bull overall have had a really trying time so far at their home track, the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg. But it looks like by the time Sunday comes around, Max Verstappen's flying. Charles Leclerc on the radio saying tyre degradation is expected. Charles Leclerc and the other Ferrari, the one who started in second, has plummeted all the way down to 5th.
He didn't say is it expected, he said as expected, which I believe is, they've had a meeting, said high degradation around this track.
He was told tyre degradation is as expected. He wasn't saying that himself. That's the team informing him about the other cars around him and also his own.
Charles Leclerc struggling then, down in 5th currently, with the 2 McLarens in tow behind. Lap 10 of 71. Russell leads for Mercedes from pole position. 3 seconds is the gap he has over Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. That's the closest gap out on track right now. Uphill towards turn 3 into the braking zone. Hamilton's the sound you can hear. Decent traction on exit. We now head downhill. Max Verstappen will be able to deploy a little bit of energy to try and give him a boost. We'll close up through the aid of the rear and the front wing, both opening, under braking into turn 4. Closes up, but Hamilton still holds second.
This is perfect for George Russell, isn't it? Because at this stage he can just look after those medium compound tyres and just nurse them towards that first pit stop while Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen are fighting.
Verstappen could trigger this early. He is very close to Lewis. Every extra second we can get.
So Verstappen could trigger this early. We're thinking now pit stops and when the first may well come. If you started on the medium tyre, Pirelli saying you can go to around about between lap 17 and lap 24 before you start thinking about that first stop.
I mean, if Max Verstappen is going to box soon enough, then you would expect him to do medium hard, if that's the case.
As he says on the radio, I have a really bad brake pulling. What does that mean?
So effectively when he hits the brake in a straight line, as he does now, down the inside, and he's got the move done on Lewis Hamilton, leaves Lewis nowhere to go on the exit. Great move from Max Verstappen there, and he moves up to second place.
But Lewis Hamilton's going to strike back though to the outside, downhill towards turn 4. He's got a nose ahead, lock up from Max Verstappen, little lock up from the Ferrari as well, almost wheel to wheel, but the Ferrari is ahead, and Lewis Hamilton squeezing Verstappen to the outside through the left-hand flick of 6. It's side by side for Verstappen and Hamilton. Into the gravel goes Verstappen. Hamilton holds his line. Verstappen holds it as well. Hamilton, Verstappen, neither giving an inch. Hamilton's back in front. Second for Lewis. Third for Max.
Oh, fantastic driving from 2 world champions there. But in the meantime, George Russell now 5 seconds up the road due to the fighting, this intense fighting between Lewis and Max.
False start noted for Sergio Perez, moving before the start signal. That's usually a slam dunk, and he's done that a couple of times before as well. But it looks like he's out of this race anyway. Both Cadillacs retiring. 20 cars remain in this Grand Prix. Here's Verstappen.
That's 10, 10,
That's Max Verstappen saying that's a penalty. That's a pretty clear penalty. These two, well, they've had dealings before on track, neither willing to give an inch, and they were going wheel to wheel through several corners, and it all started as we headed downhill towards turn 4, which is where we are once again a lap later.
Fired up Max Verstappen. I think the next time he has a go at Lewis Hamilton, or as he gets a huge oversteer on the exit of turn 4, I think these two are going to get even more feisty.
So we're going to get another look at the start. We'll keep an eye on what's going on between Hamilton and Verstappen as well. But it looked like a decent start from George Russell. Indeed, it was. Had to cut across to defend from Charles Leclerc. Meanwhile, Max Verstappen was really fighting hard with the two McLarens as Antonelli ran wide into turn 1. Back on track, live scenes on the circuit is Lewis Hamilton coming into the pits. He's decided to pull the trigger before Max Verstappen gets the opportunity to. Hamilton into the pits for his first stop. It's earlier than anticipated.
Absolutely. I think this is going to be onto the hard tyres and then get your head down and do a decent middle stint of the race for Lewis.
As Lewis Hamilton heads back out on the circuit, Verstappen then gets released up into second. Let's see how this all filters out. Meanwhile, another wicket in the cricket. Ellie.
Mitchell Santner out for a duck. Ben Stokes strikes just a teeny edge, showing up on ultra edge, caught by Smith. Santner out for a duck. New Zealand 205 for 6, 289 the lead.
Ball-by-ball coverage over on Sports Extra here on 5 Live. It's the Austrian Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton, after a brilliant battle with Max Verstappen, has just pitted.
Outlap critical, let's push.
As he is told by his race engineer Carlo Santi that the outlap is critical. Get those tyres up to temperature. Max Verstappen, will he respond? Will he have to respond this lap around?
I think he will, but he's had a big lock up into turn 4. That would have cost him a little bit of lap time for Lewis Hamilton. He's got to get after Gabby Bortoleto, who's on the soft compound tyres still, running in 10th place. So Lewis is in the middle of the pack now. This lap is critical. His pit stop was 2.4 seconds, so decent stop from his Ferrari crew, but absolutely this is critical. And I believe Charles Leclerc is also in the pits now, looking to go on to the hard compound tyre.
Yeah, both Ferraris then coming in for a hard tyre. Max Verstappen staying out in second. George Russell continues to lead this race and was really being helped out by the fact Hamilton and Verstappen were battling so hard for second place in this race, managing to extend his lead at the front up to 5.7 seconds now. But everyone will be watching the two Ferraris to see how they perform on these hard tyres. A little earlier than anticipated in terms of the change. Hamilton feeding out into 9th spot where he currently is. He's just picked off the Audi of Gabriel Bortoleto. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc is back out having pitted, and he is fed just outside the top 10 into 11th, and I'm sure another critical outlap for him too, but he did struggle more on that first lap.
Yeah, it looks quite difficult to get those front tyres fired up and working, under braking. Both Ferraris looking like they're just under rotating those fronts on the opening lap. Lewis struggled particularly under braking into turn 4, pushing hard to try and get that undercut working on the opening couple of laps.
I tell you what, the fastest driver on the track at the moment is Max Verstappen. He's closing on George Russell. He's reduced the gap from 6 seconds to 5.3 in just 2 laps. And so the graphics on the screen are showing a Hamilton and Verstappen gap and what's going to likely to happen after a pit stop. We don't know when Verstappen's going to stop, of course, but that's very interesting. And Antonelli as well, going with Verstappen, about 1.4 seconds behind him, both of them closing on George Russell in the lead.
Lap 15 of 71. Russell leads. Verstappen second at 5.3 seconds. The gap. Lock up though for Max Verstappen. Down towards turn 4. Are those tyres starting to give up on him? Antonelli is third, having yet to pit. Piastri, Norris the top 5. Hadjar, Lawson, Lindblad, Hamilton, who has pitted in 9th, and Bortoleto the top 10, forcing another driver off the track. That Hamilton-Verstappen incident has been noted. We'll see if race control elevate that to under investigation.
I hope they don't. I thought that was great racing between the pair of them.
Yeah, agreed. We'll keep you up to speed with all that. But Max Verstappen then not feeling the need to respond to Lewis Hamilton's early pit stop to go on the hard tyre, wanting to stay out instead.
It almost makes you wonder whether Ferrari are free stopping, doesn't it? The others extending quite significantly. They're obviously not going in the same strategy race. Here's a replay of the battle, Sam. Take us through it.
Well, I think this is a little bit earlier in the race. I think this was lap 1, actually, Andrew.
This was Charles Leclerc losing positions.
Yeah, this is the move that Max Verstappen did to get up to 3rd place. And then I think this is the battle between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Seeing now Max opting for the outside line, going through turn 6, trying to hang it round the outside and not getting it done. He was a little bit aggrieved that Lewis didn't leave him room on the exit, which is why it's now being under investigation with the stewards. Lewis Hamilton, in the meantime, up to 8th place, just gradually picking people off that haven't pitted.
Yeah, Hamilton just picking off Lindblad last time around. That's 16 of 71. Russell, and the times are close between Russell and Verstappen. The gap is just over 5 seconds, but barely a tenth separating the two when it comes to lap time in favour of Max Verstappen right now. But is George Russell just getting that benefit of clean air?
His all start is overheated. The one stop may be possible.
One stop may be possible for George Russell. That's interesting.
Yeah, is that a false message, though? That could be. Because
bit of gamesmanship?
Yeah, that could be. It could be.
That would be impressive. No one predicting a one-stop strategy, and our Ferrari deciding that actually they might need a 3-stop if they went so early.
And it also depends on if Antonelli can cruise up to the back of Verstappen and then how hard Russell has to push.
Antonelli a couple of tenths slower than Max Verstappen last lap around. This is the sound of the 19-year-old Italian for Mercedes, who leads the Drivers' Championship. Coming through the left-hander of turn 6 now. You can see Max Verstappen in his sights. The gap is just over 1.5 seconds, with Verstappen a further 5 seconds back from George Russell. Piastri, Norris round out the top 5. Let's head back to Trent Bridge. Another wicket in the cricket, Ellie.
Yes, 3 wickets in 10 balls here. New Zealand wobbling 206 for 7. Nathan Smith out, caught behind off the bowling of Jofra Archer, and New Zealand's lead 290 runs. They've only got 3 wickets left.
All the wickets available to you on Sports Extra for live coverage of day 4 of the 3rd test. Here it's the Austrian Grand Prix on 5 Live for the next couple of hours. Here's Lewis Hamilton's radio.
It's okay. Better now. You are faster than Charles.
Hamilton asks if his pace is okay. He is told it is better now, and you are faster than your teammate Charles Leclerc. And this is the sound of Lewis Hamilton, who has pitted on the hard tyre, cruising back up through the field. Liam Lawson will be the next driver to pick off, and the longer Max Verstappen stays out, having not immediately tried to cover off and respond to Lewis Hamilton's pit stop, the likelihood is altering strategies then between those two, and Verstappen then playing a slightly longer game in this race.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton past Liam Lawson. Easy pickings for the Englishman there. Lawson on very worn medium compound tyres now. They're probably screaming as we see Verstappen coming into the box. This could be critical, Harry.
He does respond. He peels off to the inside before the final corner, slows it down to 80 kilometres per hour, hits the pit limiter and trundles down the pit lane. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton is coming through the penultimate corner now. Max Verstappen heads into his pit box. The Red Bull team get to work. Little slow maybe on the front left. It's still quick though, 2.4 seconds, and he's back out into the pit lane. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton should come out ahead here. He's heading down the start-finish straight now, uphill towards turn 1 as Verstappen is released on the inside of turn 1. But by the time they get to the exit of the corner, Hamilton is through as Verstappen now exits the pit lane. Hamilton on much warmer tyres, but crucially, Verstappen now on fresher rubber.
Yeah, and 6 lap fresher rubber. That's going to give him a significant pace advantage. I think Verstappen's going to get Hamilton relatively easily here, or he's a couple of seconds behind him at the moment.
Just had a bit of a grip issue coming through turn 3 uphill, just having to be a bit tentative on the throttle, but he could well catch Hamilton in a few laps time.
Yeah, it takes a lap or so for these hard compound tyres to fire up, as George Russell now is going to be boxing from the race lead.
This is the sound of your race leader then slowing it down to the pit lane speed limiter. It won't be long before he gets to peel into the Mercedes pit box, and Oscar Piastri from McLaren are also coming in. Quick work from George Russell. Blink and you literally will miss it. Just over 2 seconds for a pit stop for a race leader. Antonelli stays out, takes the race lead. Meanwhile, Hamilton and Verstappen still out on track, 5th and 6th. A couple of seconds between the two. Will take a lap or so for Max Verstappen's tyres to get up to 100% temperature required. Piastri pits, so too does Lawson. This is the moment then where the others decide they need to come into the pits as Russell heads back out onto the track. Lando Norris goes through, having not pitted, so it's Antonelli who leads, Norris in second, Russell should feed out in third.
So the undercut has worked for Lewis Hamilton in terms of track position, but as Andrew said, Max Verstappen and George Russell, who he's fighting against, Lando Norris radio.
I know, we're going to stay out, you'll get clean air, we're going to extend. I got no more pace, so this is it.
So the team wanting Lando Norris to stay out and benefit from a bit of clear air, but he replies, well, I haven't got any more pace to benefit from that.
Yeah, as I was saying, Lewis Hamilton has got the track position that he wanted over Max Verstappen. He's closed the gap a little bit to George Russell in the lead, but that could hurt him towards the end of this stint or towards the end of the race.
Well, Hamilton and Verstappen are getting closer to each other on track. In fact, there's only a second between the two of them coming through the final corner now. In fact, we can see George Russell heading uphill towards turn one in third. At the moment, that's effectively a net lead coming into the right-hander of turn one. Russell, Hamilton, Verstappen all very close on track. Russell will have the freshest rubber, Verstappen the second best rubber, and Lewis Hamilton, well, can he navigate the attack that is about to come his way?
Remember I said when they came out of the pits, Norris is coming in to stop after all, as we thought he might do from that radio message. There's 2 seconds when Verstappen came out of the pits behind Hamilton. He's now less than a second behind him as they go through turn 4. Max Verstappen is going to be challenging Lewis Hamilton for that position by the end of this lap.
And no further investigation on that previous battle between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, forcing another driver off the track. That has been cleared, so it's game on between the 7-time world champion and the 4-time world champion. It's Ferrari versus Red Bull, and the Mercedes is only a little bit up the road here in George Russell. Antonelli stays out, Lando Norris comes in just before Russell, a bit close for comfort there for the effective race leader as Norris is coming in for his pit stop as we tick over for lap 22 of 71. Russell now in second, followed by Hamilton, and there comes Max Verstappen right underneath the rear wing of the Ferrari in front of him. It's a better exit though for Lewis Hamilton out of turn 1 as now we head through the slight left-hand kink of 2, heading up towards turn 3. Good overtaking opportunity here, late on the brakes for Max Verstappen. Hamilton sees him coming, runs wide, gets the cutback, but Verstappen has the mighty throttle on the exit, but can Hamilton fight back here? Hamilton's going to try it around the outside in a straight line, downhill braking towards turn 4. Hamilton's back in front of Verstappen here, and Verstappen, can he get any more out of that Red Bull as we head towards the left-hander of turn 6? He closes up once again under braking and dives down the inside through the left-hander. Hamilton sees it once again, leaves the room, and Verstappen, what a battle that was for 3 corners. Russell up the road, Verstappen third now, Hamilton fourth.
Breathe, Harry.
Sorry.
Wow, what a fight we're having between 2 of the titans of our sport. Max Verstappen was never going to leave Lewis Hamilton room at turn 6. Returns the favour to what Lewis did to him probably 10 laps ago. But what a fight we've got on our hands this afternoon.
Yeah, now, before that battle, they were cleared of that previous incident, no longer under investigation for forcing another driver off the track, but they came close to it once again. But Hamilton saw him coming with every corner that went by. Verstappen feeling really bold on his brakes, able to go late on the brakes, and now, having just snuck that front wing to the inside coming through turn 6, is able to extend his advantage now already on Lewis Hamilton, as Verstappen now owns third position, which should become second when Kimi Antonelli comes into the pits. Lewis Hamilton now down to 4th, and what will Kimi Antonelli do here? He's leading this race on the medium tyre, still out there, not pitted. George Russell, who started on pole and came in a few laps ago, has pitted, is 8.7 seconds behind.
So the question now is, has Verstappen got the pace to challenge Russell? Russell's just at the fastest lap on that lap, 1 minute 11.2. Verstappen's half a second slower than him on that lap as he crosses the line, 3.6 seconds behind him. Can he get those tyres up to temperature and challenge that Mercedes in the next few laps?
The question I want to ask you, Andrew, is do you think that Kimi Antonelli would be trying to do something that no one else, I think, can do now with the fact that they pitted so early? Do you think he could be trying a one-stop? Could be. He extends long enough.
Well, we heard Russell, didn't we, say he thought the one stop was possible. We've also seen a radio message from Antonelli saying that his brake pedal's going long, though. So I don't know. Sam is the answer, but and maybe it was a bit of kidology from Russell. Certainly they seem to be on course for it would appear to be a two-stop strategy, but how long do these hard tyres go? We don't know. Maybe they can actually go to the end of the race, even the ones who've stopped already. Unlikely, but you never know.
There is a 40% chance of a safety car here at the Red Bull Ring, and I would say that's increased overall at every track with the current generation of car that we've seen. That could help a one-stop.
That seems slower. We are thinking also about Plan B.
It doesn't feel that way to me, mate.
Car off the track, car on the side of the track, and it's the Williams, and it is Carlos Sainz who has stopped. Antonelli comes into the pits. It's just a yellow flag at the moment, but surely to get rid of that car, if Sainz cannot get himself going, we'll have to get at least a virtual safety car. Antonelli benefits under a yellow flag to take his stop, but would he have benefited enough there?
There's no benefit at the moment because he came out of the pits. The virtual safety car was too early. Called, but he stopped just too early to make a benefit there.
Russell takes the lead of the race. The virtual safety car is now called. Now would have been the time for Antonelli, and he would have lost only 10.5 seconds in the pit lane rather than 20 seconds because Carlos Sainz in the Williams has stopped on the start-finish straight. This is the sound of the Williams. Oh, that didn't sound good.
Oh, that's very terminal, isn't it?
That just goes, doesn't it, out of the final corner.
Another disappointment for Williams. Their season's just, especially Carlos Sainz's, he's got to be so disappointed with how it's going in 2026. Virtual safety car, as you said, Harry, and yeah, if only Mercedes, if only they'd waited another lap, they'd be looking at Kimi Antonelli potentially fighting for the lead of this Grand Prix after 25 laps.
That could be critical. Antonelli coming out in 5th spot. It's Russell who leads, Verstappen 2nd, Hamilton 3rd, Leclerc, Antonelli the top 5, Piastri 6th, Hadjar is 7th, Norris 8th, Lindblad 9th, Lawson 10th. Meanwhile, we're getting a replay of something that happened to Lewis Hamilton coming through the final corner.
Box.
Tell me too late.
Good rider.
They were looking to pounce on that virtual safety car, but they're going to do it anyway. A lap around. VSC is still out. Hamilton takes the advantage to pit.
And they've gone to the soft compound tyre on Lewis Hamilton for this stop. That's intriguing.
That is intriguing. The soft tyre, we didn't really think we'd expect to see that in the race. Ferrari, who absolutely nailed their strategy last time out in Barcelona to see Lewis Hamilton take a first victory with the team. Had they played a blinder here, or had they made a mistake? They benefited in terms of time saving, taking a pit stop underneath the virtual safety car, and he's pitted and come out in 7th position.
I am not understanding that decision. Soft tyre
closed.
That's going to last 10 laps maximum, so he's committed to a 3 stop, and the others are talking about maybe doing a 1. It's like, I don't know, I just don't understand. I don't understand how the benefits him.
I'm glad you don't, because I was going to come to you and say, why was that?
Bono, what is happening with this brake? I have no confidence.
Got a brake split, mate, so one's hotter than the other.
Yeah, and that can typically happen when there's a slight difference in brake material, either pad or disc. It doesn't feel great when you've got a split like that. We're now back up to racing conditions as Kimi Antonelli overtakes Lance Stroll. Easy pickings for him. But yeah, Lewis Hamilton on the soft compound tyre, that's really, really odd.
I just wonder if Ferrari are thinking there's still a high chance, it's a risk, and there's still a high chance that we could well get another virtual safety car, a safety car perhaps, because we've lost 3 cars at the moment. In Formula 1 this year, we've been finishing races with 14, 15, 16 cars. We're at altitude here, thinner air. That's going to have a detrimental effect on the power units. We already heard a lot of talk in the first few laps about smoke and engine temperatures. So I just wonder whether that is a bit of a left field look at the strategy from Ferrari. It's bold.
Well, it's trying to do something with... trying to see you can't see into the future and what's going to happen. You can hope for a safety car at exactly the right time, but it's praying for something instead of racing with what's in front of you right now. I think it's a very, as you said, it's bold, it's brave, but is it wise? That's what we're going to find out.
I don't understand what they're trying to do. Why does it help?
Well, if there is...
I can't get my head around it.
They can have a really fast stint now on the soft tyre and then hope it times. But
he's only going to regain the position that he just sacrificed by stopping if they do that. Well, that's what I don't understand.
Well, I suppose it depends on what the others do and where the safety car, if a safety car falls. I'm in agreement with you. I'm just trying to see some sort of reasoning for this, which I'm struggling to, and that's the first thing that's come to my brain. It's lap 28 of 71. Russell leads. We're back to green flag running. Russell has a 4.8 second advantage over Max Verstappen. Charles Leclerc is now third ahead of Kimi Antonelli. Piastri fifth. Hadjar is sixth. Then comes Hamilton on those soft tyres, right on the back of Hadjar now in seventh. Norris, Lindblad and Lawson make up the top 10. Bortoletto is 11th ahead of Gasly, Hulkenberg, Behrman and Ocon the top 15. Albon is 16th. Then comes Colapinto, Alonso and Stroll. The 19 drivers that remain in the field, both Aston Martins, curiously, also on the soft tyre, but running a slightly different race. Sainz out of this one in the Williams, and both Cadillacs out of the race as well.
Meanwhile, Max Verstappen's just set fastest lap, and he's got that lead down to 4.7 seconds. That's George Russell's gap. So down to below 5 seconds now. So that lead fight is definitely on, it would appear.
And going into turn 3, Kimi Antonelli now swarming all over the back of Charles Leclerc for third place in the Grand Prix. Are we going to see the young Italian making a move on Charles Leclerc towards turn 4? I think he's a little bit far back. No, he's not. He's making a move down the inside, but Charles Leclerc brakes late enough to hold on to the position. But it looks a little bit ominous, doesn't it, Harry? I think that Kimi Antonelli is going to be making his way up to third any minute now.
Yeah, just bailed out of it in the downhill braking zone, but he's all over the back of him, as is Hamilton all over the back of Hadjar. Verstappen now in second, 4.7 seconds the gap between himself and your race leader, George Russell.
Also, Hamilton on that lap on the soft tyre, yes, it was a very quick lap, but it was no quicker than Verstappen's lap. So we'll see what he does this time round. Yeah, he's not lapping any quicker on the soft tyre than Russell and Verstappen are on the hard in front of him. So
yeah, it's
all
curious.
The more befuddling as to what's gone on there at Ferrari.
Charles Leclerc, meanwhile, the other Ferrari, about to come under pressure once again from Kimi Antonelli behind. Uphill we go towards turn 3. It's Linus Stern through the right-hander. Antonelli hugs the inside of the apex. Meanwhile, coming through the corner now is Lewis Hamilton, still tucked up behind Isaac Hadjar. Downhill towards turn 4. Leclerc is the inside line. Antonelli breaks round the outside to the middle of the track. Antonelli owns the corner through the right-hander of turn 4. It bends round through 5. Antonelli up into third ahead of Charles Leclerc as Lewis Hamilton is going wheel to wheel with Isaac Hadjar through the right-hand bend of 5. That'll leave him the outside through the left-hander of turn 6. Is there an Isaac Hadjar still on the inside? No, there isn't. The Frenchman's behind. Hadjar now 7th. Hamilton ahead in 6th.
They're working those soft tyres very, very hard at this stage, Lewis Hamilton, and also Kimi Antonelli. Nothing wrong with those brakes going into turn 4, was there? Great move on Charles Leclerc.
Lap 31 of 71. Russell leads Verstappen. That gap, 4.5 seconds last lap around. Verstappen a couple of tenths quicker. Antonelli third, now Leclerc fourth, with Oscar Piastri a couple of seconds behind him. As we're going to get another look at the Hamilton and Hadjar battle, and it was Hamilton down the inside, much closer to the apex, and then on exit going wheel to wheel and just managing to carry the momentum through the left-hander. And I think that fight is once again ongoing, with Hamilton and Hadjar in 6th and 7th. Charles Leclerc hasn't quite given up on Kimi Antonelli yet either. Less than a second split, the Mercedes, who's now up to 3rd, ahead of the Ferrari in 4th.
The longer this Grand Prix goes on, the more I'm thinking that actually maybe Kimi Antonelli just doesn't have the outright pace to catch George Russell and Max Verstappen this afternoon. I think at the moment he's resigned to third place. Albon instant yellow flag infringement noted as Max Verstappen puts in another best lap of the Grand Prix.
Lap 32 of 71. The sun still shines down on the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg, in the heart of the Styrian Mountains, with over 300,000 people here watching the grandstands packed out. And could they be seeing a home victory for Red Bull, with Max Verstappen sitting second right now, 4 seconds adrift of George Russell and closing.
The two McLaren cars, we haven't really spoken about them much so far. They're currently in 5th and 8th place. Oscar Piastri up in 5th. Lewis Hamilton radio?
In mode TS. Mode TS.
Why do I have to go to mode TS?
Temperature.
I already have no power.
So mode TS, something to do with temperature is what he's been asked to, and Hamilton reporting back, I already have no power.
So it sounds like they're asking him to detune his engine a little bit because he's struggling with overheating. He's got no pace on those soft tyres. 11.7 on that last lap, whereas compare that's the same pace as Russell in the lead, but Verstappen and Antonelli behind Russell are closing on him. Verstappen's now 4 seconds behind Russell, and Hamilton's not got, even though he's got soft tyres on, fresher than everybody else's hard tyres, he's not as quick as the guys at the front of the field. So I'm still struggling to understand what Ferrari were trying to achieve with that stop under the VSC onto the soft tyres, because he's going to have to come in again quite soon.
That is the most frustrating radio message you can get as a driver when it's a hot day and you're told to detune the engine. I've had it at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in a Ferrari as well, and it just, as a driver, is so frustrating.
19 cars left in this race. Lap 33 of 71. This is round 8 of the Formula One World Championship. George Russell leads. That gap coming down, though, with Max Verstappen reeling him in. 3.8 seconds. The gap then, it's Antonelli third, Leclerc fourth, Piastri fifth, Hamilton is sixth, Hadjar, Norris, with the two racing bulls of Lindblad and Lawson rounding out the top 10. They are your point scorers. Bortoleto in 11th. Bortoleto, who started on the soft tyre actually, and has started in 12th, has made one position so far. The Brazilian who races for Audi a year ago today was where he scored his first Formula One points. Gasly is 12th, Hülkenberg 13th. The two Hasses of Behrman and Ocon sit 14th and 15th. Colapinto is down in 16th. Then it's Albon, Alonso and Stroll, the 19 remaining drivers, with Sainz in the pit, still actually classified in this race, but his car very much stopping out on the circuit, and the two Cadillacs with what looks like separate issues, both retiring early doors from the Grand Prix.
So sounds like Lewis Hamilton's temperature issues have subsided a little bit. He's been able to change his mode, engine mode, back to mode race. So hopefully he can pick up the pace just that little bit.
Battle for fourth starting to heat up, as Charles Leclerc has now, I think, given up on trying to get third place back from Kimi Antonelli. Oscar Piastri in the McLaren. Another quiet race for him, just reeling him in though.
Yeah, we saw on Friday in free practice that Lando Norris's pace was especially good on the race runs. We haven't seen too much or spoken too much about the McLarens. I was going to speak about them, wasn't I? But
yes, you were, and then we got sidetracked.
Rudely interrupted and sidetracked. But yeah, Oscar Piastri nicely going about his business in 5th place. I don't think that they've got the pace to really threaten the top 3 positions, but potentially they could be knocking on the door of Charles Leclerc any minute now.
Yeah, Piastri, who was finished 5th in the last, finished 4th, I should say, just off 5th in the last 2 races. Apologies. Looking to make that 3 in a row if he holds on to P5 at the moment. I think he'll be hoping for a couple more points that come with 4th place. Podium looks a little bit out of reach at this stage, but never say never in Formula One. Things can turn on their head in an instant. Virtual safety cars, or even red flags can certainly change the strategy immediately.
Max Verstappen at the front is closing on Russell by about 0.2 of a lap, 0.2 of a second a lap. It's now down to 3.2 seconds, that gap. In fact, it was 0.4 seconds on that lap. So this is getting really, we can't see it yet, it's not happening yet, but it's getting really tasty at the front of the race.
hotting up nicely for the battle of victory here in Austria. George Russell really needing to have a statement victory to show that it's not all Kimi Antonelli's way this year. Meanwhile, Max Verstappen hasn't taken a race victory since Abu Dhabi last year, looking to show, even though Red Bull claim they don't have the best chassis, they've been benchmarked as the best engine though. And Verstappen with a really troubling weekend so far. What a victory it would be, and a turnaround it would be across the weekend if he can make that happen.
But Kimi Antonelli's closing fast on George Russell. Both him and Max Verstappen are quicker than George Russell at the moment, but the gap back to Antonelli is 11.4 seconds. Antonelli trying to make some inroads into the top two. My question, though, is, if Max Verstappen is challenging George Russell, I mean, Max Verstappen is going to want to win Red Bull's home race and will be feisty about it. George Russell is in the fight for the championship, or is trying to be. Does he... he's going to put up a decent fight against Verstappen, but if it comes to banging wheels, does he allow Max Verstappen to win this one, but he beats Kimi Antonelli and stays in the championship fight?
Russell's really struggling at the moment. He's just lost 0.8 to Verstappen on that last lap. It's down to 2.4 seconds, that gap. Antonelli's also closing. He's going even quicker than Verstappen, but he's quite a long way back still, 7.6 seconds behind Verstappen.
We've got action on track though, and it's Oscar Piastri sliding down the inside, and the two Ferraris now get oh so close. Making the move on Charles Leclerc is Oscar Piastri. He's through, and that compromises Leclerc with his teammate Hamilton up the inside, but much later on the brakes is Charles Leclerc, who holds on to what is now fifth. Hamilton on that soft tyre, remember, while quick to begin with, although he wasn't really showing the pace, it will start to fall off the cliff, but he's holding on. The two Ferraris side by side through the left-hander of six. Hamilton sweeps round the outside of his teammate and demotes him down to sixth place. Piastri up to fourth for McLaren. Hamilton now fifth. Leclerc down to sixth.
Yeah, Ferrari, I mean, strange as Charles Leclerc is now boxing from sixth place. He's going to be changing from, he's done a medium and a hard, so I think he's going to be going on to another set of hard. We'll find out any second now. He's in the pit lane. What will Ferrari do strategy-wise with him? Been very strange so far from Ferrari with their strategy. And it is another set of new hard compound tyres.
And off he goes. The wheels screech on the asphalt as he heads back into the pit lane and down towards turn number one. So Leclerc bailing out of that battle then. And meanwhile, on lap 38 of 71, George Russell leads, but the gap continues to come down now at a rate of knots, just over 1.5 seconds separating Russell and Max Verstappen. The Dutchman smells victory here on home turf for the team, and right now looking like the dominant force. Antonelli third, Piastri fourth, Hamilton fifth.
Yeah, we didn't expect to see Max Verstappen hunting down a victory this afternoon, but we're being treated to some great driving from the Dutchman. He's 1.8 seconds back from George Russell and hounding the Mercedes driver, pushing him for all that he's worth. We thought it might be a Mercedes kind of walkover at the front of the grid, but absolutely not. The Red Bull driver putting and applying the pressure.
I'm still very curious about this soft tyre choice for Lewis Hamilton. He's still out there. He's up in fifth at the moment.
Meanwhile, in third place, Antonelli's closing on Verstappen as Verstappen closes on Russell, and Antonelli's now only 6.5 seconds behind the Red Bull. So the last sort of half, we're now into the second part of the race just. This could be really, really interesting between the top three.
Three-way fight for the victory here in Austria. Meanwhile, the battle we're watching right now is Oscar Piastri holding on to fourth ahead of Hamilton.
We need to get Piastri. I know you are trying.
As Lewis Hamilton's race engineer, Carlos Santi, trying to G him up. Important here for Hamilton to get through on Piastri to see if this curious strategy of his, going onto the soft tyre on his second stop under virtual safety car, can lead to an improved result as coming into turn 9. Looked a little crossed up, did Lewis Hamilton. Just loses out on the gap as he crosses the line to Oscar Piastri. who is now extending slightly in 4th place.
Meanwhile, Kimi Antonelli locks up and runs deep in turn 3, a mistake that we've seen all too much from all the drivers pretty much. Seems very, very easy to lock up into turn 3.
1.4 seconds the gap between Russell and Verstappen. Antonelli a few further seconds back. Both Verstappen and Antonelli quicker last lap around than George Russell.
Gap at the front, 1.3 seconds, Harry. He's coming, isn't he? Max Verstappen is coming for George Russell.
Cue the Jaws music, Andrew.
Antonelli's coming for both of them. He's now only 5.9 seconds behind Verstappen and lapping a second a lap quicker than George Russell, his teammate, in the lead.
As we have another look at what happened a few moments ago, and there was a bit of contact between Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc in the run-up to turn 3. Piastri diving down the inside, contact made with Piastri's rear left and Leclerc's front right, but both looking like they got away with that one, and in the end Leclerc's tyres falling off the cliff and coming into the pits. He's now back out on the hard tyre behind Norris in 8th spot. The 2 Racing Bulls round out the top 10 of the point scorers. Bortoletto, Hulkenberg, Behrman, Gasly and Colapinto are the top 15. Then comes Ocon, Albon, Stroll, Alonso and Sainz. Sainz actually out of this race but in the pits. 19 drivers remain. Sainz, Perez and Bottas out of this one as Hadjar comes into the pits from 7th. Looks like he's switching on to the medium tyre. His teammate though is in the battle for the race win here. Verstappen out of nowhere challenging for victory at the Red Bull Ring.
Great to see Max Verstappen at the front, isn't it? Hustling that Red Bull. Meanwhile, Fernando Alonso is under investigation for speeding in the pit lane. Normally that is a slam dunk.
But yeah, Alonso now filtering to the back of the pack as the sun glints off the silver arrow of George Russell's Mercedes, and the same for the blue, red and yellow Red Bull out the final corner. Very close on track now, the closest they've been so far. And this is going to be a battle that we hope, as Verstappen rides the curves on the exit of turn 1, just unsettles him, loses a bit of time as a result. But the rate of knots that he's catching him, a 1:11.8 though last lap around. Russell has just turned up the wick slightly, a 1:11.9.
Yeah, Verstappen's got the problem now that you often get when you're chasing someone. When you get into the dirty air and the progress that you were making just evaporates basically, because your tyres start to overheat, especially at a track like this with hot temperatures, 51.6 degree track temperature. The tyres get too hot and it's difficult to get any closer than this. So what are Red Bull going to do about this now? He appears to have the pace to beat Russell, but it's a question of getting ahead.
He's just got it down from 1.4 to 1.1 coming through the middle sector. Round the final 2 corners for Max Verstappen. When you're within a second, you get the benefit of overtake mode. He won't get it this lap around. The detection point is just before the final corner, and it allows you to deploy a little bit more energy from your battery to try and close the gap compared to the car in front. Coming through turn 1 now, Russell still holds the lead from Verstappen. Antonelli catching them both from 3rd. Piastri from 4th has been told to box and come into the pits, as has Lewis Hamilton, to get rid of his soft tyres on lap 43.
So that will be Lewis Hamilton's 3rd stop of the afternoon, and presumably his final stop.
Good stop from McLaren, 2.3 seconds as Ferrari released Lewis Hamilton. 2.2 seconds back out into the pit lane and into this race. Looks like Hamilton then is in a battle with Oscar Piastri till the end, as Charles Leclerc will also announce himself coming through turn 1 now, and will get the jump on both of them. Leclerc goes up into 5th, Piastri feeds out in 6th, Hamilton in 7th, just ahead of Hadjar, who pitted a lap ago.
Yeah, undercut being very powerful this afternoon, but what you get as a reward at the beginning of the undercut, you pay for at the end, with the tyres fading towards the end of the Grand Prix. I can only imagine that Charles Leclerc will start to struggle over the last 10 laps. Another incident for Fernando Alonso, ignoring blue flags noted as George Russell is into the pits.
Russell in, and he's decided to jump before he was pushed as Mercedes come into the pits. Service Russell as he gets away well, 2.3 seconds. Verstappen stays out, takes the lead of this race. Antonelli stays out too. It's now Verstappen, Antonelli, the top two, but Russell decides it's time for another pit stop. They're going to get him out in ahead of the traffic. We've got Colapinto's Alpine just coming through turn one. Quite important to get ahead of him. He does clear track ahead for Russell.
He does, but he's got to fire up those hard compound tyres. Remember, Kimi Antonelli went quite a long way in this race on that set of medium compound, so expect to see him just stay out for quite a bit longer. He can probably go on to the mediums at the end of this Grand Prix. I think that's what he's going to try and do, to try and close in on Verstappen and Russell and potentially fight for the win this afternoon.
Did Hamilton change onto the hard tyre?
He's done so many pit stops, I've got no idea. I think he has, yes.
I think he has, because the data's deciding not to show us.
Hamilton and Piastri both put the hard on. This is why I'm struggling with Hamilton. So he'd just been passed by Verstappen, right? So he was in third place when they made that stop under the VSC. Now he's battling with Piastri for sixth place. They cost them so. They would. I mean, obviously, we haven't had a second Norris stop yet, but it is completely confusing as to why they would sacrifice a third place to turn it into a seventh, and it just doesn't make any sense at all.
We'll only know when the checkered flag flies, I imagine. Lap 45 of 71 then. Russell has used the opportunity in the last lap to pit and take another pit stop. He's fed out in third position. Max Verstappen hasn't responded. Neither has Kimi Antonelli. They stay out for another lap. Verstappen leads. Antonelli, bearing in mind they were both closing in on George Russell at a rapid rate of knots over the last 5 to 10 laps.
So, best you can at this stage of the race. We'll just try to build a bit of a tyre offset. Hope he gets into trouble towards the end.
I didn't quite catch what Verstappen said at the end there, but leaving him out for the time being, it sounds like, to push as hard as he can on what he's got left with his rubber.
Yeah, the idea is to a tyre offset that Giampiero Lambiase was talking about there. What he means is they've recognised that Russell's come in for his tyres. He's going to catch up to them a little bit. They're hoping they can make sure that that's not too much catching up. Verstappen will come in after a number of laps, fit new tyres. He'll have fresher tyres than Russell. Remember, the tyres degrade by about 1/10 of a second a lap, so if he can build up that half a second or a 6/10 of a second pace advantage and not lose too much time. Here's Russell's radio.
As long as Kimi keeps extending, Verstappen's going to keep on extending and put us into race.
Yeah, so Russell's worried about exactly what I'm describing. Verstappen coming at him towards the end of the race on fresher rubber, so that's what's going to happen. We'll see.
Oh, it's hotting up in Austria. What looked like it could have been simple for George Russell after a fantastic pole lap yesterday, as he described it, out of nowhere. Didn't have it all weekend until the final lap in qualifying, secured pole position, but now on lap 46 of 71 he is out of sequence with the top two. He is third and he's led every lap so far of this race before he's pitted. However, Verstappen and Antonelli are looking quick out on track.
Yeah, with that early pit stop that George Russell did, it's kind of put him under pressure towards the end of this Grand Prix. We do expect Kimi Antonelli and Max Verstappen to just keep on extending this stint, as we see Kimi Antonelli struggling with the rear of the car on the exit of turn one. But for all that George Russell has underneath him now with newer tyres, Kimi Antonelli and Max Verstappen will have much fresher rubber towards the end of the Grand Prix.
The difficulty, though, for anyone who's doing the offset strategy is that you can't afford to stay out too long, because the gap gets too big for you to make it up. And then when you do catch them in the end, you haven't got enough tyres to challenge them. So it's always that balance. What's the optimum time to stay out, get the pace offset with the newer tyres without giving yourself too much to do to catch up before the end?
Lap 47 of 51 of the Austrian Grand Prix. Verstappen leads Antonelli, 3.2 seconds is the gap. Neither yet to take their final pit stops. Russell has third from the race lead. Norris fourth, also owed a pit stop. Charles Leclerc fifth, Piastri sixth, Hamilton seventh, Hadjar eighth. Lindblad's just come into the pits from ninth, ahead of his teammate Liam Lawson. The two Racing Bulls running solidly in 9th and 10th for the majority of this race, actually. Bortoletto 11th, Gasly 12th, Hülkenberg, Colapinto and Ben in the top 15. Then it's Ocon and Albon in 16th and 17th, with Alonso in 18th and Stroll in 19th. I believe he's just been told to box to retire, though, has the Aston Martin man, to join Carlos Sainz, Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas, all out of this race.
Yeah, the Cadillacs had a horrible day, didn't they? Both retiring from the race very early doors. Now it's Lando Norris's turn to visit the pits as he comes out side by side with the Alpine, has to give the position away. And now the Alpine goes into his pit box, but Lando Norris away now and on a new set of hard compound tyres.
Meanwhile, Piastri's fighting on track with Charles Leclerc as they swap positions. And Piastri ahead of Charles Leclerc. Leclerc will try and fight back once again in the run down towards turn 4 under braking. The Ferraris look quite good on the brakes down there. Does close up underneath him once again, but Piastri now ahead of Charles Leclerc up into 5th spot, and Leclerc down to 6th.
I think it's been a challenging day for Charles Leclerc, hasn't it? It starts on the front row of the grid, and every time we see him on track, it seems like he's being under threat or overtaken. He finds himself up in 5th place right now, but that doesn't really tell the full story of his afternoon.
No, it doesn't. With Norris coming into the pits, yeah, that bumps them both up a position, as we're going to get a look at the... Oh, Lando Norris came in hot to the pits, overtook Lance Stroll coming into the pit lane, was serviced by McLaren, and then McLaren released him into the path of Franco Colapinto's Alpine. They came out side by side. I think that's okay. He has to back out.
Yeah, that's okay. He backed out of it. He didn't force the issue.
So while that's going on in the pits, at the front of the race, we've got Max Verstappen beginning to come under pressure from Kimi Antonelli, who's now only 1.9 seconds behind the Red Bull and lapping nearly a second lap faster. Verstappen's just come on the radio to the team to say his tyres are dead. Here he comes into the pits.
It's less than a second now, the gap, and it will be Antonelli, who I presume will stay out and take the lead as Verstappen comes into the pits then. Where is George Russell out on the circuit? Should move past him. Antonelli takes the race lead. Red Bull out in the pit lane, ready for their champion. He hits his marks. All 4 wheels are changed. The car is dropped back down onto the asphalt, and he's released in 2.2 seconds as Russell heads through into second.
Still, he's got to do 21 laps on that set of hard compound tyres. I'm really intrigued to see what Antonelli does now. Does he wait another 1 lap, 2 laps, 5 laps, and then which compound is he going to go on to? Can he afford to go onto the medium compound and really hound after Verstappen and Russell?
Russell's pace is quick, though, compared to Antonelli's now.
Yeah, but it would be,
well,
because his tyres are 20 laps fresher.
So surely Antonelli has to come in at the end of this lap. On lap 50, here he is.
Okay, Kimi, let's go. Just maintain the focus.
Let's go, maintain the focus is what Pete Bonington, Anthony's race engineer, tells his driver.
So they're extending. Meanwhile, Verstappen's come out just over 3 seconds behind Russell. Can he close in on him on this stint like he did on the last stint? He's got 6 lap fresher tyres. That should give him 0.6 of a second per lap in terms of tyre pace to close on Russell.
Bit of traffic between them, though. Verstappen coming out to the back of Nico Hülkenberg. He'll have to pass Pierre Gasly as well. They should get out of the way with blue flags, but sometimes that's easier said than done and can certainly cost the leading car time, which could play into the hands of George Russell, buying in time as we're on lap 51 of 71 here at the Red Bull Ring for round 8 of the Formula 1 World Championship.
Sorry, just need to correct myself there. It's 10 seconds Verstappen's got to close on Russell. The timing screens were out of sync there for a second.
It's all right, Andrew. We'll let you off. As we see the 2 Ferraris nose to tail. Charles Leclerc in 5th, having done 2 stops. Lewis Hamilton has done his 3rd stop and is on back out on track and looking to make a move on his teammate for what will be 5th position. Will he try it down towards turn 4? Moves to the inside, has a little look, doesn't want to risk it though.
No, runs wide as well on the exit of turn 4, and Antonelli is going to be boxing, Harry.
Mercedes then make the call. Antonelli can't make this work any longer. The gap between himself and Russell just over 5.5 seconds as Antonelli is called into the pits then to be serviced by Mercedes at the end of lap 52, and it's another decent stop from the Silver Arrows. 2.6 seconds. Where's this going to feed him out in relation to Max Verstappen, who comes through now up towards turn 1, safely through as Verstappen through the right-hander. Antonelli then should feed out in third place behind Verstappen, ahead of Oscar Piastri, as Norris has been noted for a pit lane infringement. Now, I imagine that was actually him overtaking Lance Stroll coming into the pit entry rather than the unsafe release, so we'll keep an eye on that one. On track, though, the move being done by Lewis Hamilton to get ahead of his teammate up towards turn 3.
Yeah, nicely done from Lewis there. He should pull away on the exit with those fresher, hard compound tyres. Charles Leclerc has no answer on the exit. Lewis Hamilton up to P5.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a day to forget so far for Charles Leclerc. Started in second, and well, I think that was as high as his race has been so far up towards turn 1, and he's been falling back ever since. Virtual safety car deployed out on track. Everybody slows down to maintain a delta. The idea is the gaps stay the same, and it's because we've got a bollard on track, a Marshall already there to receive it. Will that be a blink and we'll call the VSC back in? Looks like Albon's the one that's hit it. Will anyone benefit from this who's near the pit lane? And it was Albon who decided to absolutely...
That's an early turn in.
Take it out on the inside at turn 3, and I think, yeah, virtual safety car already ending. Looks like one of the Alpines has tried to make use of it and come into the pits. I imagine that was Pierre Gasly in 13th, but not really having an impact on any of the front runners.
I mean, that's 2 opportunities, actually, that Kimi Antonelli will probably look at after this race and go, if only we pitted under one of those, I could have gained valuable seconds. But anyway, we carry on. George Russell leads this race after 53 laps, from 9.4 seconds clear of Max Verstappen, and then a further 4.6 seconds back is Kimi Antonelli. This one could go all the way to the end.
Yeah, this could be a final lap shootout here. Russell, Verstappen split by 9 seconds, then it's a further 4.7 back to Antonelli. Piastri is slowly bringing himself into this one, you know. He's only 1.5 seconds behind Antonelli. Then,
done a really solid job, hasn't he?
He really has. Then comes Hamilton, Leclerc, Hadjar, Norris down to 8th, not really going the way of Norris's. Not going the way of Norris so far. Lawson and Lindblad holding on to 3 points for Racing Bulls. No further investigation for Hadjar and Ocon. There was an incident between those two. That's been reviewed, but nothing being done there. Outside of the top 10, Bortoletto and his Audi teammate Hülkenberg are 11th and 12th. Gasly's 13th, ahead of the 2 Haas cars of Behrman and Ocon. Colapinto is 16th, with Albon 17th and Alonso down in 18th. And I believe he's under investigation for speeding in the pit lane. Stroll, Sainz, Perez, Bottas, all out of this race. 18 cars remain.
Kimi Antonelli was getting held up badly there by Nico Hülkenberg, who's now let him through, but a couple of corners he would have lost valuable tenths in those first few corners of the lap.
Yeah, I think in the closing stages here, because it's such a short lap, it's only 4.3 kilometres, it's 10 turns, if that really, you start to catch the traffic very quickly, and that is the same being said for Russell, who's now on the back of Arvid Lindblad and Liam Lawson. Antonelli and Verstappen will have to make their way through the other Audi of Bortoletto, but once Russell and the top runners get through the Racing Bulls, there's a bit of clear air.
Yeah, it's a 10-turn track, but really in a Formula 1 car it's 7 turns, isn't it? You can't really classify turn 2, turn 5 and turn 8 as proper corners in a Formula 1 car. If you were in a GT car, yes, they're definitely corners, but not in these high aerodynamic machines that are Formula 1 cars.
So we've got 16 laps to go. Verstappen is 8.5 seconds behind Russell, and on the last lap he closed on him by 3.5 to 4 tenths. And behind him, Antonelli's 4.9 seconds adrift, and he's just going about a tenth of a second faster than Verstappen. So both of them closing on Russell. The top 3 should concertina quite interestingly in the last few laps.
Yeah, this is going to be one to stick with us for the closing stages here on 5 Live for the Austrian Grand Prix. Following us here is 5 Live Sport. Maz Faruqi will have the latest from day 4 of the third test between England and New Zealand, plus a look ahead to this year's Wimbledon Championships. And from 8 o'clock, the knockout stages of the World Cup begin tonight, and 5 Live is the voice of the World Cup. We'll be bringing you action from Los Angeles, South Africa against Canada. But right now, our focus here on 5 Live on the Austrian Grand Prix, round 8 of the Formula 1 World Championship. It's Harry Benjamin with you up in the commentary box. Multiple Formula E race winner Sam Bird is alongside me, as well as the BBC's F1 correspondent Andrew Benson. We could well have a 3-way battle for race victory this afternoon between George Russell's Mercedes, Max Verstappen's Red Bull, Kimi Antonelli, the man who leads the championship in the other Mercedes. All split at the moment, but gaining on each other, and that could well concertina right at the end of this, as further back Isaac Hadjar in the other Red Bull and Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari are in a fight for 6th and 7th. Hadjar looked like he was getting the move done, and they both lock up in the downhill right-hander towards turn 4. Compromises Leclerc more than it does Hadjar, who gets on the traction and blasts past.
Yeah, Charles Leclerc having a horrible afternoon in his Ferrari. I wouldn't want to be in their debrief room after this one, that's for sure. So 14 laps remaining of this Grand Prix, and Kimi Antonelli, I think, Charles Leclerc's radio.
His tyres up.
Okay, so he's not a fan of those tyres. Kimi Antonelli's closing in to George Russell at the tune of about 0.4 a lap. We'd need to see him gaining more than that if he's to mount any serious chance of winning this Grand Prix.
No further investigation on Lando Norris's pit lane infringement. Norris is down in 8th as well, and Sunday not really going his way either. It's certainly swinging the way of his teammate Oscar Piastri. He's on the periphery of a podium here, but has just lost a bit of time in the last few laps compared to Kimi Antonelli, who's ahead of him in third. Antonelli, the fastest man out there on track.
Yeah, Piastri's on much older tyres than Antonelli, so he's just sort of hanging on to 4th, really. The interest is whether Verstappen and Antonelli have got enough to catch up to Russell. In the last lap, Russell was only a 10th slower than Verstappen, so it looked like he had it under control then. Yeah,
is this Russell, as actually Russell just running wide in the last lap around at turn 1, taking to the escape road? That would have lost him some time. But is there an element here where Russell, even though the gap is now 7 seconds, could he be managing this?
Well, it looked like he was trying to, but running wide in turn 1's not helped him, because he just lost a second on that lap to Verstappen. Verstappen and Antonelli are basically neck and neck. They're 4.5 seconds apart. Antonelli's more or less matching Verstappen lap for lap at about a lap. They're lapping in 1 minute 10.4 seconds. 7 seconds is the gap between Verstappen and Russell. We haven't seen enough consistent laps yet to make a completely definitive judgment. It's going to be tough for Verstappen to close the gap, I would say, but it's not impossible at the moment.
Gap's just dipped under 7 seconds, keeping an eye on this one all the way to the flag here in Austria. It's been a while. Shall we get a check-in on Trent Bridge? Ellie Oldroyd.
Yes, sun is shining here this afternoon. 220 for 7 is the New Zealand score. The lead is up to 304 runs. Those 3 wickets in 10 balls haven't been followed up since then. Daryl Mitchell is there on 58 of 196 balls. It's called a patient innings, is a bit of an understatement, but so far New Zealand managing to steer themselves back into a little bit of safety. 304 runs ahead, New Zealand. 220 for 7 is the score.
Ball by ball coverage over on Sports Extra. It's also the Premiership Women's Rugby Final. Sarah Orchard.
And it's Saracens women who've taken the early lead. A fabulous try for them. They had to work really hard for by Julia Omokwole to touch down on the right-hand side near the touchline. It's now Saracens women 7, Trailfinders 0, 14 minutes played.
Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari in 7th, just having a bit of a chin wag on the radio, thinking about another stop, Sam, by the looks of it.
Yeah, and the Ferrari crew saying now that they've got nothing to lose really with another stop. Liam Lawson's 46 seconds back, and now Lando Norris is down the inside of him. I think that we're going to see Charles Leclerc making another stop towards the end of this Grand Prix.
This is a day that just gets worse and worse for Charles Leclerc, doesn't it? Now relegated down to 8th. Wouldn't be surprised to see him come in again with nothing to lose now, with a gap enough to have a free pit stop essentially and still come out again in 8th. You need about 20 seconds for a pit stop here in Austria, and the gap, as you say, Sam, over 45 seconds between him and Liam Lawson.
Well, they've had relatively poor tyre life and pretty poor overall race pace, haven't they? Especially on Charles Leclerc's side, as they've now called him into box.
This is the sound of Max Verstappen, who continues to reel in George Russell. Last lap around for Max Verstappen, a 1 minute 10.5. Compare that to George Russell, a 1:11.1. Kimi Antonelli setting the fastest lap of the race so far a lap ago. A further 0.2 quicker than Max Verstappen with a 1 minute 10.3. They are flying, but will they do it in time? Could they run out of laps here? The other question to ask is, well, Kimi Antonelli, he retired in the closing stages, didn't he, of Barcelona a couple of weeks ago with a reliability issue for his engine. The same has happened to George Russell. Think back to Canada a few weeks ago. Those Mercedes engines, while they tried to bring a fix this weekend, there's still heavy question marks over their reliability. Could that play a factor in the closing stages here?
It's been a fantastic afternoon's work so far from Max Verstappen. He's absolutely driven the wheels off his Red Bull, but the gap now up to 5.5 seconds. So on that last lap, no, even on that last lap, he was 4 tenths quicker than George Russell. I mean, he's pushing, isn't he? He's doing everything he can to make inroads into George Russell's lead.
5.4 seconds the gap between Russell and Verstappen, 3.9 seconds between Antonelli and Verstappen. If it finishes like this, Russell would move back ahead of Hamilton in the Drivers' Championship and up into second spot. Antonelli would continue to lead the Drivers' Championship and pick up some crucial points. Ended up with nothing last round in Barcelona. I'll be hoping at the moment to at least take home the 15 points you get for third, 18 for second, and it's the big 25 for Grand Prix victory.
10 laps to go. These are 10 big laps in the World Championship in 2026. George Russell looking to bounce back from a relatively disappointing run of form recently, but he's driven brilliantly so far this afternoon. What's Max Verstappen got, though? Has he got anything left in the tank?
I don't think he's got quite enough. He's closing. Last lap was 0.3 per second. It's got the lead down to 5.3 seconds, but there's only 9 laps to go, I should say. I would say he's not going to have enough left in his tyres to pass, even if he catches him by the end of the race.
Unless George Russell's tyres fall off a cliff on the last few laps, but I can't see him allowing that to happen, can you?
Well, is there more of a risk of Antonelli now closing in on Verstappen and passing him for second?
I think more than that, Antonelli could be Russell's best friend. Ironically, because if he catches Verstappen before Verstappen catches Russell, that's going to slow Verstappen down defending against the other Mercedes, and it's going to stop him being able to catch Russell.
And they are best friends down at Mercedes. They've got a great relationship.
Yeah.
Fighting for their first world titles, Russell and Antonelli this year.
You can never be best friends with your teammate. You can put on that persona, but in the race car, you are desperate to beat your teammate.
It's like commentators, isn't it?
No, I don't need to compete with you.
No, I couldn't possibly anyway. Lap 63 of 71 then. Still waiting for this to unfold, but it's coming. It's Russell who leads. The gap, 5.2 seconds. Last lap around, only a tenth slower than Max Verstappen. Now all eyes going on Kimi Antonelli in third. He was a few tenths quicker last lap around than Verstappen. The 19-year-old Italian reeling in the Dutchman in the Red Bull. Piastri sits fourth, then comes Hamilton in fifth. Hadjar, Norris, Leclerc did pit again and went on the soft tyre. Holds on to eighth. The two Racing Bulls, 9th and 10th. Those are your point scorers. Then it's the two Audis, Bortoletto and Hulkenberg. Gasly's 13th, Behrman, Colapinto, Ocon and Albon 17th place, with Alonso bringing up the rear of the field in 18th. We've lost Lance Stroll's Aston Martin, Carlos Sainz's Williams, and the two Cadillacs early doors, Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas, both having to retire from the Austrian Grand Prix.
So everybody except for the Ferraris inside the top 10, have only done a 2-stopper. Ferrari have, for whatever reason, felt like they've had to do a 3-stopper. So they'll be looking at their tyre degradation after this race and seeing what went wrong.
64 of 71. The sun shines down on the beautiful Red Bull Ring, surrounded by the mountainous range of Styria. Beautiful conditions, 34.6 degrees air temperature, 51.3 degrees track temperature. It's been hot all weekend long. There was talk of a bit of rain coming for today. That looks to be wide of the mark. And it's been Mercedes versus Red Bull so far this weekend, and so far this race, with Mercedes with the advantage. And in fact, Red Bull, I think if you'd have told Max Verstappen you're going to be fighting for second place on Sunday, on a Friday, I don't think he'd have believed you.
No.
Considering where they were.
No,
he struggled all weekend long.
And you saw how much he struggled in previous races. He's been very, very unhappy with the car and the car balance and the overall pace. So for him to be in this position, fighting the two Mercedes cars, I think he'll take great confidence into Silverstone and the coming races.
They did bring some upgrades this weekend, did Red Bull, to the car. Bits to their side pod, the floor, the suspension, and the engine cover in an effort to improve their overall chassis. And according to the sports governing body, the FIA, they have the best engine compared to everybody else.
And he is closing on George Russell, but I just don't think it's enough. It's 3-4 tenths a lap, but with the gap at 4.5 to 5 seconds, you'd think that George Russell has done enough with 5.5 laps remaining.
And I hate to say it, has the challenge just slightly tapered off from Kimi Antonelli as well. Last lap around, a 1:10.8 from both Verstappen and Antonelli.
Well, he's pushing, isn't he? He's pushing for all that he's worth, but Max Verstappen is equal to the challenge.
Bit of traffic to contend with, that might explain it. They've just had to navigate their way through the two racing bulls. Verstappen's tucked up behind Alex Albon at the moment. It's 2 laps down, should clear him coming down the start-finish straight, which is where George Russell is too, just coming to the end of it through turn 1. Russell's got Esteban Ocon in the Haas to navigate his way around. Ocon down in 16th at the moment, so certainly in terms of the midfield battle, it's Racing Bulls winning that one out with 2 cars inside the points, and looking to make that consecutive point scores on the trot for the Red Bull sister team.
So if George Russell is to win this Grand Prix, this will only be his second win of the season, his first since Melbourne, the opening Grand Prix of the year.
Yeah, he almost has to do a bit of a double take at that, but it was Kimi Antonelli who was on such an incredible run of 5 consecutive race victories. Doesn't look like he's going to be quite there today, but that gap has come down to Max Verstappen. Bit quicker last lap around. In fact, a fair bit quicker. 1:10.6 for Antonelli compared to a 1:11.0. The gap now under 3 seconds between Antonelli, who's third, and Verstappen second. Between Verstappen and your race leader, Russell, it's just about 3.5 seconds the gap. So this is still alive here. Russell, who's led 51 laps of this race, coming into the pits twice throughout it. The only times he's conceded the position from pole. A mighty lap yesterday which came out of nowhere. It may well be, and may well have been set amongst confusing yellow flag conditions, but he knew the rule book and he got it done when it counted. And for somebody like George Russell, who so desperately needs a return to race winning form, a weekend really where he needs a response. We thought that might come a couple of weeks ago in Barcelona. It ultimately didn't. Can it come today? Verstappen will be hoping he can find something, but I think that 3.7 gap has teetered up as Lando Norris runs wide further down in 7th. It's 67 of 71. Russell, Verstappen, Antonelli, the top 3. Piastri, Hamilton, the top 5. Hadjar, Norris, Leclerc, the top 8, with Lawson and Lindblad rounding out the top 10. Let's send you back over to Trent Bridge and Ellie Oldroyd.
Yes, because here we've just had the news that Ben Stokes has announced that he is to retire from international cricket. In this test match, he will end his England career here at Trent Bridge. We've had a statement from the ECB saying that it will bring to a close an international career which began in 2011 with the white ball teams. He made his test debut December 2013 in Adelaide. Tributes from the ECB chair Richard Thompson describing him as one of England's greatest ever cricketers, and from the CEO of the ECB, Richard Gould, saying he's made an immeasurable contribution to English cricket. I have to say, Harry, this is a massive shock to all of us. To announce his retirement right in the middle of the game is remarkable. He was bowling just an over ago. We will bring you lots more reaction to this, of course, from our team here at Trent Bridge, and we will pay tribute from 4 o'clock this afternoon. More reaction to come here on 5 Live.
Yeah, thanks, Ellie. Pretty dramatic news then coming out of the ECB. Reaction to come across the BBC Sport website and here on 5 Live. Meanwhile, this is the Austrian Grand Prix. In the last few laps, we're on lap 69 of 71. George Russell leads the Grand Prix, but the gap between himself and Max Verstappen is 3 seconds. And now the gap between Verstappen and Kimi Antonelli, 1.5 seconds. This is the closest, Sam Bird, that it's been.
Yeah, Kimi Antonelli, you've seen him pushing as hard as he can over the last 2 laps, using every single inch of track on the exit of turn 9 and turn 10 to try and catch up to Max Verstappen. Kimi Antonelli's tyres have done 17 laps, Max Verstappen's 19, George Russell's have done 25. Is there anything left that Kimi Antonelli can do? He's got a lap and a half to go. What's he got? Can he take the fight to Max Verstappen?
It's looking close, though. The silver and black of the Mercedes glinting in the sunshine, which has reigned supreme throughout the weekend. Inch perfect for Kimi Antonelli coming through turn 6 and 7. Carves his way through the right-hander of turn 8. Now, the final 2 corners of the circuit. Fast right-handers, 140 miles an hour through turn 9. That's where Max Verstappen crashed in qualifying yesterday. Kimi Antonelli with Max Verstappen well and truly in his sight as we cross the line and tick over onto the penultimate lap of the Austrian Grand Prix. This will help George Russell if Antonelli can slow down Max Verstappen and keep this fight going. This will unfold. Let's head back to Trent Bridge quickly with Ellie.
Can you hear the roar for Ben Stokes, who has just taken a wicket as the crowd absorb the fact that he's retiring from international cricket? And that shock announcement we brought you just a couple of minutes ago, he's taken the 8th wicket here. He talks about going to the well one more time for his team, and he's taken a wicket and he's embraced by all his teammates, and a standing ovation for the outgoing England captain here at Trent Bridge. New Zealand 228 for 4.
Thanks, Ellie. A standing ovation there. Will it be a standing ovation for the British driver George Russell here in Austria? It's at the Red Bull Ring. Max Verstappen, the Red Bull driver, in second, and on the back foot now. We thought Verstappen would be challenging for victory here, and he has been, but the tyres are running out of life and he's falling into the clutches of the other Mercedes, Kimi Antonelli, who is wringing the neck of his Mercedes round the final corner as we cross over for the final lap of the Austrian Grand Prix. 10 corners for Kimi Antonelli to find a way past Max Verstappen and make it a Mercedes 1-2.
Max Verstappen's got nothing to lose, whereas Kimi Antonelli is fighting for this world title, a world title that he leads quite handsomely right now. How hard is Kimi Antonelli going to push Max Verstappen? They come ever so close at turn 3, down towards turn 4. I think this is Kimi Antonelli's final shot at taking this second place, but he's a little bit too far back right now, Harry.
Meanwhile, Russell is carving his way through the infield section now, on his way to a second win of the season. Antonelli's going to run out of corners here to make it a Mercedes 1-2, but will Verstappen's tyres give up everything they've got before the checkered flag? Meanwhile, George Russell approaching the penultimate corner now on a weekend where Russell needed a response. He has delivered exactly that. A magic pole lap and a magic victory for George Russell, who wins the Austrian Grand Prix. He sees the checkered flag first, but who's behind him? It's Max Verstappen, who holds on to second. Kimi Antonelli at the flag, 3/10 of a second behind. The challenge came just too late in the day for the Italian, and a wonderful podium for Max Verstappen, and the Red Bull fans are on their feet in the grandstands.
Yeah, these three were in a class of their own this afternoon. Oscar Piastri comes across the line in P4 with Lewis Hamilton rounding out the top five.
Yeah, Hamilton, who started this race in third place with a curious three-stop strategy, falls down the order to fifth. Hadjar sixth. Norris comes home in seventh. A day to forget for him and for Charles Leclerc in the other Ferrari eighth. A good day for Racing Bulls in the midfield, 9th and 10th.
Great job, mate.
As of 2 years ago, yabba dabba doo. Great job.
Well done, George. I'm happy. Well done.
Thank you so. Good team result. Well done, everybody.
Well, you can see what it means to George Russell there. He moves up to second in the championship now. 40 points, the gap between himself and his teammate Kimi Antonelli. And while we wait for the drivers then to head back into the pit lane, let's take you back to Trent Bridge with Ellie.
Do you know, Harry, this has been one of the most dramatic moments of Ben Stokes' career that I've witnessed, and of the announcement of the retirement of Ben Stokes, England captain. Back to you, Harry, and the team at Spielberg.
Yeah, thanks, Ellie. We'll certainly be making our way back to Trent Bridge for all of the dramatic news coming out of there regarding Ben Stokes' retirement from international cricket at the end of this test. But you're back with me and Sam Bird at the conclusion and the podium ceremony for the Austrian Grand Prix, which has just been won by George Russell's Mercedes. His second win of the season, his seventh victory in his career on a weekend where he really needed a response, Sam, didn't he? And he has delivered that.
Absolutely, and he controlled the race really, really well. Max Verstappen and Kimi Antonelli were charging towards the end, but he built up enough of a buffer to take home the spoils and the 25 points this afternoon. He now sits second in the Drivers' World Championship, 40 points behind his young teammate Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah, and it was Kimi Antonelli who was really taking the charge to Max Verstappen right at the end of that race. Ultimately, just by 0.3 of a second fell short, but Verstappen, a great job from him even to be second. I don't think we would have expected that at the start of this weekend, and Antonelli, well, was really keeping him honest to the end.
Absolutely. Max Verstappen, though, every single race he manages to extract everything out of that Red Bull, and boy did he put on a great display at Red Bull's home race this afternoon. Really, really good stuff from him.
Curious race from Lewis Hamilton. We're just watching the drivers in the cool down room after the race, where they all sit and, well, literally cool down, but watch some of the highlights of the race. Just seeing the wheel-to-wheel action between Max Verstappen's Red Bull and Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari that happened on a couple of occasions. Wheel-to-wheel stuff between the champions. It's great for us to watch. But ultimately, Hamilton's pace just absolutely fell off the cliff, and a bizarre decision to pit fairly early and go onto a soft tyre.
Well, Lewis Hamilton's pace wasn't particularly stunning, but Charles Leclerc's teammate was even worse. So I think there's going to be a bit of head-scratching back at Maranello over the next 3 or 4 days to see what they can do going towards Silverstone.
Yeah, it certainly will be a quick turnaround before we head to the British Grand Prix in a week's time, and that'll be on 5 Live for you to listen to. We'll have the 1996 Formula 1 World Champion Damon Hill here as well, guiding you through all of the action and in terms of how the Drivers' Championship will look coming into that race weekend. As Sam says, just 40 points separating Kimi Antonelli and George Russell, 1 and 2 once again for Mercedes. Hamilton drops down to third. Oscar Piastri actually jumps up 2 positions in the drivers' standings to 4th, ahead of Lando Norris. Another race, well, not another, but a race to forget for Lando Norris, really. Another one who struggled out there, ended down in 7th place. Leclerc is 6th in the Drivers' Championship. Verstappen 7th with 18 points added for 2nd place. Hadjar 8th with Gasly and Lawson rounding out the top 10 in the drivers as the track invasion begins and everyone gathers underneath the podium to see the top 3 head out and celebrate their afternoon's work as the music starts to kick in now. In 3rd place then, Kimi Antonelli steps out after his retirement last time out in Barcelona, back onto the podium. and actually his first third place of the year. He's either won a Grand Prix or finished in second or retired from it.
Just think, if he'd finished that race in Barcelona, he'd be 58 points clear at this point. He's still got a really, really lovely buffer though.
Yeah, he has. And he can hold on to it still for another weekend. Yeah, as Max Verstappen steps out, his best finish of the season for Red Bull. And it's all smiles from the Dutchman. But it's George Russell on the top step of the podium, back onto it. And here is the British national anthem. The national anthem raining out then for George Russell, who will receive his first place trophy and raises it high up into the air. And he'll know how important victory was today for him. His team of engineers and mechanics look up at him from below. And Bernie Ecclestone back on the podium. The former boss of Formula One, the man who really controlled the way Formula One operated, hands out the race-winning medal. Good to see him here in Austria. And the race-winning trophy for the constructor Mercedes is given to Aaron Rajikmar, the trackside power unit engineer for Mercedes high-performance powertrains. With Max Verstappen then after his best result for Red Bull. Could this be the start of a resurgence for Red Bull in this championship? Laurent Mekies, the team principal, down, standing underneath the podium, looking up at his driver. As Kimi Antonelli still sits at the top of the Drivers' Championship, just 19 years of age, continues to show us what a force he is and will be to come in Formula One as the champagne celebrations begin. The confetti erupts from the cannons and the three drivers are absolutely covered. And George Russell takes a big glug of champagne and celebrates with the team. As they celebrate, let's head back to Sarah Orchard at the PWR final.
Yeah, half-time at the PWR final, and it's the three-time Saracens who look set for history here because they lead 26-0 against Trailfinders women, and the woman at the middle of everything is Marley Packer, former England captain who hasn't been given a contract by Saracens next season. 2 tries for her. She's absolutely led from the front. What will they be missing when she goes to Harlequins? Half-time here in the PWR final. It's Saracens women 26, Trailfinders 0.
Thanks, Sarah. Now, while we watch the top 3 from the Austrian Grand Prix, pause for celebratory photos on the top step of the podium. The biggest news coming out today in sport. Players out on the field, and some pretty dramatic news from the ECB. Ben Stokes, the England Test captain since 2022, has announced he will retire from international cricket at at the end of this test. The 35-year-old announced his decision to his teammates in the Trent Bridge dressing room today. Stokes is playing his 122nd test, and he also featured in 114 ODIs, winning the World Cup in 2019, plus 43 T20s. We'll bring you plenty of reaction to that story over the next few hours here on 5 Live and across the BBC Sport website. Right now, though, we're still in Formula One mode, and we can hear from our top 3 finishers. George Russell taking victory, Max Verstappen in second, and Kimi Antonelli in third, speaking as soon as they got out of their cars with David Coulthard.
George Russell, your second victory of the season, your 7th of the career, and it seems to me you aced qualifying, you knew the rules. That was a tough race. You guys so close together at the end, but a beautiful victory.
Yeah, incredible to be back on the top step. It's been a little while, so I'm definitely going to enjoy this one this evening. A lot of hard work with my team to get us back on track. Obviously, there's a tricky run of form at one point. Max and Red Bull was incredible. They were incredibly quick this weekend, so kudos to them. But yeah, thanks to everyone, thanks to the fans. It was pretty toasty out there, so looking forward to a drink now.
Yeah, I can see drip on the underside of your chin. It's still coming off you. So put us in the cockpit in these hot conditions, because you had to be on point the whole way through. We saw you go a little bit wide up into 3 towards the end there as the tyres were starting to struggle, but otherwise a well-managed race.
Yeah, I mean, I was having to push every single lap, and when you push those boundaries, there's bound to be a small mistake or two in there, and I knew just how quick the guys were behind. Obviously, Kimi's been extraordinarily quick this whole season, so every lap I was looking at the timing board. We pitted on the early side. I knew it was going to be a long stint, but the team timed it to perfection.
Excellent. Well, just moving along to Max Verstappen. Congratulations, your second podium of the year. As we lose our winner, George, you need to come back before we finish this interview. You were in the hunt. You really had a chance out of the difficulties of qualifying. We saw you take that big hit in turn 9, and then to come and be that close to a victory, you must be very happy.
Yeah, I think it was, of course, a very good race for us. The first few laps were quite fun, and then it was like basically just trying to manage your tires. And honestly, I think the car was in quite a good window for, I would say, a half of the race, and then we just picked up a few let's say issues with the car, which then prevented me from basically finding that nice rhythm. But still, to be second, that close to a win, I think is extremely positive for us. So in that sense, for sure, I'm very happy.
Yeah, very strong race also from your teammate. You took that big hit in qualifying. It looked to me when you got out of the car, you were moving a little gingerly. Is you carrying a residual injury, or you're all good? When you got from the car, it looked like you were...
Yeah, I knocked my knees. You hit the bones. It's not very nice, but today it was okay. So that was the most important.
Well, congratulations. Kimi, little bit of an interesting first lap for you, struggling to keep it on the track, and thereafter you had to fight back.
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit too excited in the first few laps, and definitely didn't drive well, did too many mistakes, and even in the first stint on the medium, lost 3-4 seconds with mistakes. I was struggling with the brakes, but then after I changed tire, I reset, and the pace was at the end was very strong, and it was a shame that I joined the party a bit too late.
Well, you joined maybe a bit too late, but it gave us what was just a fantastic finish to this Grand Prix.
Yeah, I mean, it was going to be, 2, 3, 4 laps would have been a lot of fun. But of course, congrats to George, Matt. Really great weekend. On my side, there's a lot to improve, but still minimize the mistakes.
No, congratulations with that. And George, just finally back to you. You've managed to pull back 10 points. Within 40, goodbye, gentlemen. You obviously don't want to listen to you anymore. You're back in this hunt. You needed a weekend like this, and you've delivered.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, the tough races definitely test you psychologically, and these last 2 weekends for me have been vitally important to remind myself I can do it. Single lap race pace was very strong this weekend, and on a track that is probably not very well suited to my style. So looking forward to heading to Silverstone next week, seeing all the home fans. I'm sure it's going to be great.
Okay, well, go and enjoy spraying that champagne.
Thank you. Cheers, everybody.
Yeah, the big one next week, the British Grand Prix, a week away, and all of that action will be right here on 5 Live. But round 8 of the 2026 Formula 1 season comes to a close at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. George Russell taking victory ahead of Max Verstappen and Kimi Antonelli. Oscar Piastri and Lewis Hamilton complete the top 5. Both Cadillac drivers retired early on with overheating brakes. Carlos Sainz also retired from the race with a suspected electrical problem. Lance Stroll's Aston Martin forced out with an ERS issue as well, all out of this one. But ultimately what this has done for the championship is Kimi Antonelli still holds on to the lead, 171 points, 40 now clear of George Russell, back up into second with Lewis Hamilton down to third. Over in the constructors, Mercedes continue to lead the way, 302 points compared to Ferrari on 204. McLaren sit third with Red Bull fourth and Alpine in fifth. BBC F1 correspondent Andrew Benson is still with us. Andrew, your main takeaways from this afternoon's Grand Prix?
Well, it's been a 10 out of 10 weekend for George Russell, hasn't it? He was very impressive cerebrally and in the car yesterday in qualifying, and today he had this race under control just about. It was really, really tense finish. A kind of connoisseur's race, wasn't it, with the 3 cars concertinaing at the end, but a very strong result from him and exactly what he needed. Remarkable that it's his first victory since the first Grand Prix of the season. And I think that for me, though, perhaps the biggest takeaway is Max Verstappen and Red Bull. He thought he could have qualified third yesterday if he hadn't had that crash in qualifying, and he absolutely underlined that today. What a strong race from him, and that really puts the cat amongst the pigeons in terms of the title fight, because not in terms of he's a long way back mathematically, but if Verstappen's in the mix for race victories from now on, which is this one race admittedly on one track, but it does suggest he could be, then life's going to get a lot more interesting at the front of the race.
Oh, certainly will. Yeah, Sam, do you think this could be a bit of a turning point? George Russell starting to fight back here with what Andrew says about Max Verstappen, but also the Ferraris of Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc had a bit of a disappointing day too.
Yeah, really disappointing if you're a Ferrari fan to see them just fall away and have to do an extra pit stop in comparison to all of their rivals. They'll be scratching their heads and figuring out what they can do going into Silverstone. As for George Russell, great weekend for him. Does it mean he's back in the title fight? Well, you'd like to think so, but time will tell, Harry.
Time will tell indeed. The big one though, next week, not long to wait till the British Grand Prix, Sam. Always an exciting one. And well, the field up and down the Formula 1 grid stacked with British talent off the back of the first all British podium for some time in Barcelona. High hopes for Silverstone?
High hopes for Silverstone indeed, absolutely. George Russell going there obviously after the win. Lewis Hamilton, can he be resurgent in his Ferrari? You've got Lando Norris there in his McLaren, a rookie in Victor Lindblad. So yeah, very much looking forward to it.
Okay, look, we're nearly out of time. Should you say Victor Lindblad?
Yeah, I got that.
So I nearly skipped over that. Sorry, Sam.
Arvid, obviously. Sam's brain skipped a gear for a minute there.
You were doing so well. We were nearly there at the end as well. So close to the finish.
I've ruined it.
I'll tell you what, you can redeem yourself. One driver name, hopefully the correct one. Driver of the day.
Max Verstappen.
Today. Max Verstappen.
Max Verstappen.
Mine's got to be Victor Lindblad. A solid P10 finish.
Sorry.
Right, look, get yourself together, Sam. We're going to go and do a Checkered Flag podcast now, which will be available in sound and vision on the BBC Sounds app and on the BBC Sport YouTube channel. So thanks, gents, for your company. Thank you for your company. George Russell, victory he very much needed today in Austria. But right now here on 5 Live, we'll send you back over to Trent Bridge and Ellie Oldroyd.
Thank you, Harry, and you join us just as Ben Stokes gets another guard of honour as he walks out.